Alright, so this lecture video is going to talk to you about significant figures. Basically, significant figures are the number of digits in a value, often a measurement, that contributes to the degree of accuracy of that value. So really, this is going to be a number that's going to determine how accurate our number is going to be and being consistent in that process. So, how do you decide if a number or a digit in a number is significant? There are some rules, and this is in your textbook. These are really important rules. First of all, any non-zero number is going to be significant. Okay, so if you have 4.5 non-zero, you have two significant figures. All right, 122.35, they're all non-zero numbers. There are 5 significant figures. If you have one or more zero between non-zero digits, those are also significant. Okay, so 205, the zero is between 2 and 5. We know 2 and 5 are significant because they're non-zero. Because this is in the middle, it's also significant. So in 205 meters, there are 3 significant figures: the 2, the 0, the 5. 5.008. Again, you have 2 zeros in between 2 non-zero numbers, the 5 and the 8, so they are significant. So in 5.008 kilograms, there are 4 significant figures. If you have one or more zero at the end of a decimal number, those numbers would be significant. So 5.0 point, okay, there are 2 significant figures. If you have 25.0, there are 3 significant figures because this 0 is on the end of a decimal. So really, when we're talking about significant figures, we're trying to figure out whether or not the zeros in any given number are significant, because automatically you're going to know that any non-zero number is a significant number. So we're just trying to figure out if zeros are significant. All right. So 16.00 grams. There are 4 significant zeros because these 2 zeros are beyond the decimal point. In the coefficient of a number written in scientific notation, which we just talked about. So 4.8, that's the coefficient, 2 significant figures. 5.70, this is the coefficient, 3 significant figures. So these are the rules on determining whether a number is a significant or not. All non-zeros are significant, zeros between 2 non-zeros, and zeros at the end of a decimal, plus all coefficients in scientific notation. So when is a zero not significant? It's not significant if it's at the beginning of a decimal number. So right here, 0.0004, all of those zeros are before the beginning of a decimal. So there's only 1 significant figure here, just the 4. Okay, 0.075. The only 2 significant figures are the 7 and the 5. The 2 zeros are not considered significant. Or if a 0 is used as a placeholder in a large number without a decimal point. Okay, so here we have, if you look here, the difference between this number and this number is that you see the decimal point there. Because that decimal point is there, that 0 is significant. Because there's no decimal point here, none of these zeros are significant, which means the only significant numbers are the 1, the 2, and the 5. So it's just a matter of kind of having these rules handy as you go through numbers and then kind of go through it. You know non-zeros are significant, and then in terms of the zeros, figure out where they're located on what side of the decimal point, figure out if they're between 2 non-zero numbers in order to determine if a number is significant or not. So like on a test, I would say 205 meters. How many significant figures are there? And I would hope that you'd be able to go through and figure out, well, there are 3, because the 0 is significant. 0.075. How many significant figures are there? Go through your rules and say, oh, the 7 and the 5 are the only 2 significant figures. Now, the question then becomes, what happens if I'm trying to combine two measurements that have two different numbers of significant figures? So let's say I'm combining a measurement that has 3 significant figures and a measurement like I'm multiplying or I'm subtracting or I'm adding or dividing a number that with a number that has 5 significant figures. Okay? The rule of thumb here is that when you write your answer, you're always going to write the answer with the same number of significant figures as the number with the smallest amount that you started with. So for instance, if I have a number that has 3 significant figures and I multiply it with a number that has 5 significant figures, my answer has to be written up to 3 significant figures. So you're always going to figure out which of your starting numbers had the lowest number of significant figures, and when you write your answer to a calculation, then that answer will be written also with the number of significant figures as the lowest one. So again, I got a number with 10 significant figures times a number with 2 significant figures. My answer will only be written within 2 significant figures. So all the other numbers after the 2 significant figures would be dropped off. Read through this chapter in your textbook. You probably already did. If you have questions about significant figures, please let me know. Do the practice problems in your math workbook.